Second test, Abraham is told that, look, you're going to have a child. Sarah starts laughing and says, oh, honey, this kitchen closed. But God tells Abraham and Sarah, you're going to have a child. And so they couldn't wait on God. God didn't do it by 5 o'clock Friday, so they pulled their own scheme together. And my sisters, I don't even know how this got started. But Sarah went to Abraham and said, look, I got a handmaid named Hagar. You sleep with Hagar and have a child through Hagar. And Abraham said, sounds good to me. And so they have a child named Ishmael. And then Sarah gets pregnant and has Isaac. And although Sarah didn't like it, she lived with both Hagar and Ishmael in her house. Till one day she was at the kitchen doing dishes and looked out the window. And she saw Ishmael teasing Isaac. And there's a whole lot of stuff you can do to women, but you can't mess with their children. And so Sarah comes to Abraham and said, look, I don't like what's going on, and somebody's leaving, and it ain't going to be me. And so Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael out of their house into the desert with nothing more than a canteen of water and a loaf of bread. Test number 2, strike 2. Third test Abraham has is similar. He goes to another king, and when he gets there, he tells Sarah, you know the drill. Play like you're my sister. 3 tests and 3 strikes. And the problem with Abraham is the problem that most of us men have. That we've been called to do great things, but we're still carnal on the inside. That we have this nuclear war within us that we're called on one hand, but we're yet carnal on the other hand. And so while on one hand we know that we can aspire to great things, on the other side of us that we drop down to the bad things. We're called so that we can stand up for what's right. But we're carnal that we'll lay down for what's wrong. We'll stand up and be called and call out a praise. But then we'll cuss you out in the parking lot before you leave church. We're called and that we're anointed, but we're carnal because we can be annoying. We're called that we can be a blessing, but we're carnal because we can be a bother. We're called that we can pray for someone, but we're carnal because we'll pray P-R-E-Y on some other folk. Paul says, the good that I would do, I don't. And the stuff I don't want to do, that's what I wind up doing. And let me just help you a little bit. Your problems don't have to do with anyone else. The enemy that you're fighting is not on the outside, but your enemy is on the inside. Your problem ain't the church. Your problem ain't your wife. Your problem ain't your job. Your problem is with you. And I'm not trying to minimize your trauma. Don't get me wrong, brothers. I grew up in a single-parent household, so I ain't trying to minimize what you've been through. I know that your daddy didn't go to your ball games. I know he didn't show up to any of your award ceremonies. I know he never came to school and he never told you that you were going to be a good man. I get it, my brothers, but honey, you 30 years old. At some point, you got to start taking credit for your own problems. So I understand it. I understand it. I get it. But you can't go through life blaming everybody else for your own mess. The reason why you're in a mess is because you're messy, not anybody else. So I wish I had T.I. and Rihanna right here. Rihanna would say, live your life. And my brother, if you're over 20 years old, live your life. Do it for yourself. If don't nobody else want to take you out to the movies, take yourself out to the movies. Don't anybody else say you look good, look in the mirror and say you look good all by yourself. If don't nobody else want to take you to dinner, go out to dinner. Amen. And now it came to pass that after these things, God called Abraham. Oh, you just missed the shouting right there. After Abraham had done his mess, God still called him. And I don't know about you, but that's my testimony. So I know some of y'all been saved all your life. You've never done anything wrong. But that ain't my testimony. I ain't talking about the stuff I did on BC before Christ. I'm talking about the stuff I did after I got saved. And I'm so thankful that God still calls folks after they done messed up. And after they done done wrong. And He still calls folks. And what this means, it means that your mess up are not so bad that God still can't call you. And after all the mess that you've done, He still can call you that no matter how many blunts you smoke, no matter how many 40s you turned up, no matter how many clubs you dropped it like it was hot, He can still call you. Oh, I'm so thankful. And I'm glad that y'all don't do the calling. Because for some of y'all, I ain't grow up on the right side of the tracks, don't you know? I didn't go to the right school and my subject and verbs don't agree, but I'm thankful that God still called. Yeah. And if He can call a liar named Abraham, He can show up call me. If He can call a murderer named Moses, He can show up call me. If He can call a drunk named Noah, He can show up call me. If He can call a player named David, He can show up call me. If He can call a switchblade carrying Peter, He can show up. Call me. So God says to Abraham, take your son, your only son, Isaac, up to the altar. And I had a little question. Because I said, well, God, you know, that ain't really Abraham's only son. I mean, you know how we do. Usually at the funeral, you know, they ain't really only children. And so I said to God, what? This is not his only son. He has another son named Ishmael. Why are you calling this his only son? And God said to me that don't worry about who's first, but worry about who has the favor. Because the favor did not fall on Ishmael, but it fell on Isaac. Yeah. Did not fall on Esau, but it fell on Jacob. Did not fall on Adam, but it falls on Jesus. Yeah. And so Abraham takes up his son Isaac, and as they're going up the mountain, he looks back and he tells him, said, look, I'm coming back. Me and my boy are going to go worship, but we're coming right back. And Isaac looks at him, and Isaac says, look, Dad, I see the altar. And I see the wood. I see the knife. But where's the lamb? And Abraham said, God will provide. This is a different Abraham. Because the Abraham we first met, he would have ran. He would have walked away and he would have schemed. But this Abraham has some faith. Amen. This Abraham has gotten his swag back.